Hi everybody, I hope that you're well and have had a wonderful week. Autumn has certainly hit here in London. It went from being 24 at the beginning of this week to 17 today, so I'm loving getting out my winter warmers again. So today's episode, I want to talk about new beginnings because I'm about to have a couple of incredible new beginnings, and which I'm really excited about. But often when we face a new beginning, we have fear come up and things that might hold us back. We may not embrace the excitement or the new start in the best way that we possibly can. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rosanna. I'm the host of the Design Your Legacy podcast, which is soon to be rebranded. After 2 years of the podcast, I've kind of, it's grown and adapted, and it's changed in so many ways. And I started this podcast to share stories of incredible women that were leading incredible lives, and in doing so, they then had an effect on everybody else around them to help them live an incredible life. And that is really what this podcast is about. And because I do firmly believe that we all leave some form of legacy in this human experience, whether we realize it or not. And I think it's important to think about what our legacy what you want that legacy to be. So and if you don't like where you're headed, then you have the power to change that. So that was why I started the podcast, and that's still very much a firm belief of mine, but we've grown and changed a little bit, and I now speak about my own spiritual and personal development journey, whereas I never really did before. So and today is an episode about my own journey and my new beginnings, and maybe you can learn something from my new beginnings, as I have learned from so many other incredible stories of new starts. So in order for a new door to open, the old door has to close. And I think when it comes to new beginnings, we're often paralyzed with fear at the thought of closing the old doors and leaving the old behind, because the old is what we know. The old is where we seek security and stability, and the old is where, it's our comfort blanket. When we call it a comfort blanket, but this comfort zone is actually really quite dangerous for our growth. As humans, we need growth. It's one of our basic human needs, and if we're not growing, we're stagnating and therefore not living our most fulfilled life. So this is one of the basic teachings in personal development. Are our human needs and what we need to live a fulfilled life. And if we're not living a fulfilled life, then we're ultimately not happy, I would suggest. And having been in a place where I've been so miserable, I've had times where and I know we've all been here, I've had times where I've cried myself to sleep when I should have been living the dream on the other side of the world in an exotic country. I say exotic, it was Australia. And I had an absolutely miserable time towards the end there, because I was in a bit of a toxic relationship, neither his fault nor mine. We just weren't right. We grew apart, and when something grows apart, it's best to say your goodbyes and move on. Otherwise, you stagnate in a relationship, and that's when it becomes toxic. A bit like when grapes ferment and turn into alcohol. Alcohol is effectively ethanol, poison, can be toxic when consumed in too large amounts. So I've had times where, I also had incredible times while I was overseas, and I've had incredible times in my life, and I think I've had those incredible times because I have known deep down what I actually need. And I've been in some extremely dangerous situations. I've particularly when I was younger, I quite like to make life really difficult for myself and put myself in some really shaky situations that, as a 16, 17-year-old girl, I had no idea how dangerous they were. But, this is sort of kind of helped me realize that you have to live for the moment. You have to make the most of life, because we've only got one, and it can go one way or the other, and we are totally in control of the way that we want it to go. So in order to embrace the new beginnings that life presents us with, and life does present us with them, it's whether we are willing to take them. If we listen to the fears, if we listen to our ego, now remember, our ego is there to keep us safe. It is the survival instinct that we've had. It helped us escape predators back in our Neanderthal times, and we don't face predators every day. Thankfully, we're not about to be chased down by a saber-toothed tiger. So we have this ego that keeps us safe, and in order to do that, it keeps us in the past. It reminds us of our past experiences so that we stay in our comfort zone, so that we stay safe, and so that we don't encounter danger. And to the ego, the unknown is danger. Now, I think that as our consciousness and as we evolve as humans, and as our minds and our brains evolve, which they are doing, we can change these egoic patterns that are aimed to keep us safe, and we can switch that fear for excitement at the thought of a new beginning. And I think when facing a new beginning, we can go into it with full joy, excitement, embrace it, and go into it with the energy of, this is absolutely for my highest. Now, so my new beginning that I am about to embark on is going to be an absolutely wild adventure, and I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't really know where I'm going. I don't really know what's about to happen, yet I feel so calm, serene, excited, and confident in that I'm going in the right direction. So I'm leaving London, and London's been my home for over 2 years. I moved here to, quote unquote, to make something of myself, and I was diagnosed with cancer here. I had my cancer treatment here. I live in this beautiful, gorgeous home, which maybe is a podcast episode for another day, about trusting the universe, because this place was given to me by way of an absolute miracle, and this has very much become my safety zone. It's like my safety blanket, my security. I healed from cancer in this flat. I healed from cancer on this road, in this community. And, I go out and have fun and socialise in the city that is London. I may not venture much further than Fulham, Parsons Green and Mayfair, but it's become a comfort blanket to me. I did meet a friend for dinner in East London the other day. She was so shocked that she got me over there. But I ventured out of my comfort zone and over to Shoreditch, which was really nice. So I had a wonderful meal and a wonderful time, which I would never have known if I had decided to stay, if I'd asked her to come west. Anyway, I'm digressing. So where was I? Yes, so I'm leaving the security and safety of this place that helped me heal and has been my home and has been such a huge part of my life and my identity. So my persona, the persona that I show to the world is the girl that lives in London. Oh yes, I live in West London, blah 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 blah. And that the persona is built by the ego, again, to keep us safe. So it's our personality, it's what we show to the outside world. So I'm kind of dropping all of that and I'm going on a wild adventure, and the adventure is me and Russell, I'm kind of sat on the edge. For anyone watching the podcast, listening to the podcast, I'm like sat on the edge of the chair because I have Russell, the cat, next to me. He's partly the reason I actually decided to face this and record this, because he's been feeling some of my energy and it's made him a bit poorly. Because for a few days ago, I had the energy of stress and fear, and I didn't have the energy of excitement and joy and serenity, which I have managed to flip. So me and Russell are going on an adventure around the UK, maybe Europe, go just us in the little Fiat 500 and see where it takes us, at least for a month, maybe as long as 6 months. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know what we're going to end up doing. I'm very, very fortunate that I run a company that works remotely, and having coaching clients worldwide, it's great because we meet on the end of a screen, and thankfully I don't need a studio to record a podcast. So at the minute I feel very, very free. In fact, this is why I've decided to do it, because I'm actually the most free I have ever been. I don't have a boyfriend in tow. I don't have to think about anybody else. I've not really got any responsibilities apart from my cat and my company. I've got, I don't own a home. I don't own much stuff because I've given it all away, which is really liberating. I don't know, I keep seeing on Instagram that Virgo season is like decluttering season. So that I've certainly been embracing that. And, I think I've probably got rid of half of my possessions. And possessions that have also been a huge part of my identity, like some of the designer handbags that I have. And I was very attached to some furniture that I bought. This is the first furniture that I bought myself, nice furniture, and that to me was quite a big thing, considering like previously I'd been in lots of debt and never owned a home, so for me to buy this furniture myself meant a lot. But I've sold all of that because it's not. It doesn't matter. It's not really real. It's just my ego attaching itself to things, because having things keeps the ego safe. So this new beginning, and I was making a few decisions at once, and I kind of made it so that I had a lot on my plate, and I was getting anxious, and I was filled with fear, and I was worrying, and I was not feeling too great. And on Wednesday, it kind of the energy built up and built up and built up, and I ended up having a bit of a meltdown, which we all have. We all feel the stress, and once upon a time I would have dealt with it by drinking a bottle of wine, having a takeaway pizza, and washing it down with a bag of Haribo. feeling rough that night and rough the next day. And thankfully now I'm more aware and I know what serves me and what doesn't, and I've been able to put those practices into place to help me then wake up yesterday with a really, really calm mind, a really, really like just so serene, because I've made some really huge decisions that are supporting me in moving forward. I've really learned to listen to my intuition over the last year, from being diagnosed with cancer, how I healed, how I decided to stop chemotherapy. And sometimes it's not always clear. Sometimes I worry that, am I listening to my fear or am I listening to my intuition? But I made a decision yesterday that I know was my intuition, because or I made it at the beginning of the week, and I know it was my intuition because now I feel extremely calm and excited, which is how I should feel after the last year. I really do, you know, when I was a teenager I got tattooed on me, live for the moment, and because that was kind of the attitude I had towards life. And now I realise that why, the moment, your next moment isn't guaranteed. So live for this moment and make this moment absolutely worth it. And how you do that is by following your heart, following your dreams, listening to your intuition, so that you can go and live your most fulfilled life that looks different to everybody. I never ever thought that I'd be jumping in my car with the cat and driving around the UK for a month or longer, probably longer. I'm imagining in my head at the minute 6 months, but we'll see how both me and Russell do. But this is where my heart has guided me to. The first place I'm going to stay, I hadn't even heard of it before, but I was guided to it. I found this place and I was like, that is the first place. I've never been to this place. It's by the seaside. Looks perfect. It's above an art gallery. I'm going to stay in, and you know, I'd never heard of the town. I've never been to that part of the country. So really, really interesting. But I know that it's been a heart-led decision, because I'm not questioning it. It's just, this is okay, this is it, this is where we're going, we made this decision, let's go. And when I think about it, I feel excitement. So so I'm opening myself up to exciting new beginnings by listening to my heart and listening to my intuition and listening to I guess God ultimately, or the universe, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it, or higher self. And now that I know, that I trust, and that I fully let go and hand over my life to my higher self, I know that everything's going to be okay, and I have no fear anymore. So 2 days ago, I was listening to my ego and letting the fear take over my mind, and I was frantic. And I was full on throwing my toys out of the pram. I was chatting to some friends and I was full on having a strop. I don't want to do this anymore. And sneaking into victim mentality. Why the fuck should I have to deal with this? I had cancer last year. Isn't that enough? Blah, 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 blah. I was like a child. But that's what it was. It was my inner child. She's stressed. She doesn't feel safe. But now I've handed everything over. I've handed it all over. I watched a really amazing video by Aaron Abke. I've watched it a few times over the last few days, and he explains about the law of attraction, manifestation, and he has learned a lot about what he's read. He's a bit of an expert on the law of one and the densities that we're living in human our consciousness. And in it, so this lady asks a question about the law of attraction and manifestation, and you know, how can we manifest if, you know, it's like our fate has already been decided. So how can we manifest anything? And that's absolutely right. Our fate, if you like, has already been decided. When our soul came into this world, into this human experience, we were given, you decide the lesson that you want to come here to learn. And so being as the human in this experience, I'm fully happy to be led by my soul, who knows what it came here to do. And for me, for my ego, or for my inner child to let go of the responsibility of having to run my life and having to keep me safe, and handing it over to a soul that is infinite and knows everything and knows, like, that's fucking pressure off my mind. If I don't have to like sit and stress over making decisions, and I can let my heart do it, but because I know it's coming from such a place of deep knowing, then I'm absolutely happy with that. And this lady said, I am being lived. So I'm a human, I'm being lived by a soul. So there are a few different kind of versions of this floating around. Like, we're in a virtual reality game. We're the player, we're not the character, and we're playing the game, a game of life. And that if not everybody does believe in this, and that's absolutely fine. For me, when I learned of this, it didn't feel like a learning. It didn't feel like I was learning something new. It felt like I already knew it, and that it was like a remembering. It was like, oh yeah. And it felt so easy in my body that I didn't question it, because I just, it's like, yeah, I know that. Yeah. And so being able to remind myself of this, going into this new beginning, I now feel very calm, very serene, very excited, and having let go of something that wasn't potentially for my highest. And maybe I'll talk about that another time. But yeah, so new beginnings. My challenge, what I'd like to put to you as maybe some unofficial homework is think about which new beginnings you are avoiding. And if there's something that your heart is asking you to do or trying to guide you towards, but you're scared, and that's okay. It's totally okay to be scared. When you feel that fear, just sit with yourself and say, it's okay to be scared. I love you. You're safe. We're safe. I'm safe. And kind of speak to yourself as though you're speaking to a child. And ultimately, actually, this is sort of where I've come to with Russell, because he was feeling my energy of stress and fear, and it's made him a bit poorly. So I'm speaking to me and him and telling us both that we're safe, and it's coming from a place of knowing, it's coming from a place of deep within my heart that we both know that we're safe now. He's totally chilled, just sat here sleeping on his new favourite spot in the house, because he's got nowhere else to sleep unless he wants to sleep in boxes, which cats normally like, but Russell's a bit more of a princess. So it's okay to not feel, it's okay to feel scared when you're facing a new beginning, but remember that your mind and the ego can only measure what it's going to lose. It cannot measure what it's going to gain, because we live our lives based on past experiences. If you truly want to change your life and you truly want to live your most happy, fulfilled life, you have to step out of those egoic patterns, step out of the fear, and embrace something new, and know that you are safe 100% of the time. Yeah, it might be a bit risky, but what's the worst that can happen? Ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? Ask yourself, what's the best that can happen? And I'll never forget, it was one of the best pieces of advice my stepmother has ever given me. I was in yet another toxic relationship, and you see the patterns. It's probably why I'm going to be single for a little while. it was in yet another toxic relationship, and my stepmom, we were out running, training for a half marathon, and she said, you know, in order for somebody else to come into your life, you have to let him go. In order for you to have the relationship that you want, you have to let the old relationship go. And interestingly, this piece of advice then probably led on to my next relationship, which I was very happy in until we weren't happy anymore. But that's because we grew apart, and that's simple as that. That was all. We're still friends. So more of a peaceful ending than some of my other relationships. So maybe I've broken that pattern, who knows. And that's always stuck with me, but I carry it into like every aspect of life. I'm being blinded by the sun. I carry that into every aspect of life now. When I am making a decision about a new beginning, is that in order for the next door to open, the last one has to close. And I know that's not really the quote. It's phrased better, but I know that in order for me to move on to my next step in life, which is going to be absolutely incredible, I can feel it in my bones, I have to let go of the old. I have to let go of the identity that I have here in London. I have to let go of what has kept me safe, and I have to embrace what's about to come. And it's totally unknown, and whilst sometimes that can feel scary, the unknown can feel scary, because to our ego we're not safe in the unknown. Like, to the heart it's exciting because you know where you're going, and the heart knows where you're going. The heart's the safest place you can be. And in order for what's about to for me, I just have to trust. I have to trust that this new beginning is the right thing to do. And that's really, I am really, really excited. And I'm excited to go and see where our adventures take us. I only have one place planned so far, and we'll see where the wind takes us, won't we, Russell? And yeah, so the challenge is go and think about what new beginnings you're avoiding. Or if maybe you're embracing them, how can you go into it with more trust? How can you make yourself feel more at ease with new beginnings? And I know there are a lot of people out there, maybe some who are listening to this, who know the next steps that they really want to take and that their intuition is really guiding them to, but they're battling it and they're fighting it, and they're not. And if that is you, please take this as a sign from the universe to just do something that will take you towards the next step. Just slightly creak that new door open a little bit, slightly pull that old door closed a little bit more, and just take a step, baby steps, one step in front of the other. I'm moving on, packing one box at a time. And I was extremely overwhelmed when I thought, holy shit, I have to pack my whole life into a Fiat 500 convertible, not even a full Fiat 500, which you can fit a lot more in. When I thought I had to do that, I was overwhelmed, panicking, stressed out. And now one box at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you start a new beginning? One step at a time. And I promise you, it will be worth it. You will learn something. You will have fun. You will take one step closer to your soul and to embodying your soul. And I think that's really exciting. Well, I'm going to love you and leave you. If anybody is interested in working with me, I am a coach. I am a spiritual self-discovery coach. I help people get closer to the truth of who they really are and help you live your most wonderful life, because I know that your most wonderful life is absolutely possible. I am living mine, even though I don't know where it's taking me, but there is so much excitement and so much freedom in that. And it's absolutely thrilling. So, and I've done a lot of work to get here. I didn't get here overnight. I've done a lot of work, and I've had coaches and mentors help me along the way. My coach is one of the best coaches in the world, and I could not have grown this quickly without him and without his help. So yeah, if you are interested in learning about how to work with me, my website is in the description. I have some free downloads. I have a self-discovery meditation that you can go through. I am also a meditation teacher. And I have a Design Your Legacy worksheet that you can go through and think about the life that you are living and what life you would want to live and the legacy that you want to leave behind. Sort of see it as like a bit of a GPS navigation system, but you know, there might be a diversion along the way, and that's okay, but you still know where you're going. So you know where you're going, you're not really attached, you're not fully attached on how you get there. So that's all available in the link in the descriptions. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you because I'm off for afternoon tea at the Langham. So have a wonderful day. I'm so sorry about all this sunlight shining on my face. Have a really wonderful day. I hope you had an amazing weekend, and I send you lots and lots of love.